And we're back. Um, Not really. I didn't really go anywhere. And so we're back to talk about three more things. We had Wonder Woman 602, Superman Secret Origin number 6, and Batman 702. So, first up, we're going to jump into Wonder Woman 602. This is the second full issue of J. Michael Straczynski's Wonder Woman run. This is J. Michael Straczynski taking on Wonder Woman, which I think is awesome. And we've got art from Don Kramer and Eduardo Fonseca, with inks by Jay Liston, Michael Babinski, and Roy Jose. And they work pretty well together. The transitions are pretty apparent. Eduardo Fonseca's inkers put him a little bit more fine and detailed, while Don Kramer's a little bit more broad. But it doesn't necessarily hurt the reading experience. And so this issue we get, Wonder Woman gets unleashed at least twice. She friggin' goes to town on some dudes, which is something that's really, really good to see, because that's something we didn't get a lot of necessarily before. And the action sequences are handled great by Don Kramer. And we're kind of getting into the gist of the story here, kind of what's going on. Wonder Woman finds basically a hideout of Amazons in Turkey. They're at some old temple that Athena built, that Athena herself used to go to. And so we kind of are at a point where they're held down by the military, and Wonder Woman's kind of at a point where she's like, well, I have to step in and do something. So Wonder Woman comes along, and basically the people, the Amazons that she's there to save, are kind of treating this as the gods have answered their prayers. So Wonder Woman is having a big crisis at this point as to whether or not these gods are actually there for them, or if they're just kind of... She doesn't believe that the gods sent her there. She believes that, a plane and all that took her there. And so she actually has an internal monologue that she might or might not have imagined with the gods as to whether or not they sent her or not. And then she kind of has that moment where she calls on them. She's like, well, where are you? Why don't you come down and help us? And they basically do the whole we can't. And so it's getting really, really good. I love J. Michael Straczynski. I've said that before. I think his writing is fantastic. And I'm happy to no end that he's doing Wonder Woman and Superman. And it's really, like I said, it's really starting to get into we're starting to get into the bigger mystery that's going on here. And I'm pretty sure whatever's causing the gods not to be able to interfere is the same thing that caused the Themyscira to get destroyed in the first place. So, Wonder Woman, this is the first time I picked up Wonder Woman on Wednesday. In a long time. Wonder Woman used to be a book that I'd wait and pick up later, but this is the first time that I've picked it up on the racks in a while, for a single issue, not issue 600, of course. And issue 601 I didn't even do, but I liked 601 so much that I went and picked up this. And again, the new costume is causing a whole big bunch of controversy, but she loses the jacket halfway through this issue to kind of get into a fight. And some would argue that the costume's fine if you just take off the jacket. You could argue that. It's honestly, like I said, I've said it before, I can't really blame them for trying the big shake-up. And honestly, Wonder Woman was wearing a one-piece strapless swimsuit before. Not exactly functional when you're fighting, I would imagine, at any rate, unless that thing's cemented onto you. So it's not bad. I enjoyed it. I really like where this is going. And I hope that J. Michael Straczynski is in with Wonder Woman for the long haul. I think that after this and the timeline kind of gets restored, people will start settling down a little bit more. But you know what? It's good. I like it. Don't hate it because it's different. Embrace it. Hug it. Love it. That was our public service announcement for the day. Anyway, we're going to jump in now to Batman 702 by Tony Daniel and Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison writing, Tony Daniel drawing, that is, not the other way around. And this is the self-proclaimed second half to R.I.P. the Missing Chapter. I talked about this with Monty and with a month ago when 701 came out, that this is basically Grant Morrison went back and decided to tell a story that bridges Batman R.I.P. and Final Crisis. And this is the second part of that. And so the first issue ends with him coming upon Orion's gravesite. And I talked about this in my video series with Monty as well. But in this one, we're basically led to, from his entrance in Final Crisis, his story in Final Crisis, to the end of Final Crisis. Basically, at the end of this issue, we get to the point where he was at the end of Final Crisis. That one teaser we got at the end of Final Crisis is basically the last scene here. So basically, we are privy to basically his capture by Darkseid, what happens while he's captured by Darkseid, his fight with Darkseid, and then the whole internal monologue he has afterwards, where he kind of apparently recorded all of his thoughts on the matter. Like throughout these 2 issues, we've been seeing these notes written, and it turns out that this is stuff that he said and documented that all the superheroes have found. So, which is kind of what leads us into this whole situation. So now, this issue apparently leads directly into Return of Bruce Wayne #6 and Batman and Robin 16, which I'm also going to mention, because apparently the delays in Batman and Robin have caused the formatting to change. Initially, the new creative team of Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason was supposed to come on board with issue 19. But now they're coming on board with 17, because apparently Fraser Irving's arc has been delayed so much. Because the first one came out in July, we're not getting the next one until September. So that's a 2-month gap, which annoys me. So apparently we're getting his final 2 issues in September, and then October is going to wrap up the entire arc in 1 issue with Cameron Stewart. Now, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that issue by Cameron Stewart, because Cameron Stewart is massively oversized, but at the same time, it's still annoying. Anyway, this was okay. Again, I felt it was unnecessary because I knew what was going on. But you know what? Again, like I said, you're not the world's greatest detective. Tony Daniels' art, again, the cover's nice. I like the cover. But it doesn't all look like that on the inside. It almost looks like a David Finch, Jim Lee hybrid sort of thing. But on the inside, like this first image is Superman. That's just really weird. Superman has huge hands in that picture. Superman's been popping the roids. And it's kind of weird. Like, he kind of gets his bearings later on. Like, the inking is really, really smudged. And it's kind of messy to me. It's really kind of unpolished, not in a good way. But it's not bad. Like I said, it kind of just gives us... It's almost more of a thematic second part. Because, I mean, what happens now is pretty straightforward. So, but it just kind of sets up Batman's return almost. It kind of gives us that missing chapter, but then almost sets up where we're going to. I mean, Batman basically realizes that he's going to get lost here, so he's trying to find his way back. And like I said, it basically says to be continued in Batman: The Return of Bruce Wayne #6 and Batman and Robin 16. So if you dig Batman, definitely hold out for that. I know the next issue of Batman and Robin comes out September 8th, I believe. And then the next issue of The Return of Bruce Wayne comes out sometime next month, too. Issue 5, with art by Ryan Sook, which is probably why it's taking so long, because I don't think we're getting an issue of The Return of Bruce Wayne this month either, which annoys me very much. Lee Garbett, The Return of Bruce Wayne artist #6, he's probably already finished his arc. He's probably already finished his story. And Cameron Stewart's probably already finished his 3-issue arc on Batman and Robin, too. It's these guys in the middle, Ryan Sook and Fraser Irving, that are holding up the line. And I don't like the line to be held up. I don't like that. I want my comics on time, damn it. And to me, I'm not big on fill-in artists, but if you're talking a major story arc like The Return of Bruce Wayne and Batman and Robin, bring in somebody to help. I don't like seeing major story arcs get delayed. It's annoying. It's like when Final Crisis got delayed. It just kind of derailed and sapped all the energy out of the whole friggin' thing. So, I mean, anyway. Moving on, because we're going to stay in a good mood. Well, not really, because I get to rant about this a little bit. This finally came out. Superman's Secret Origin #6. And tell me he's not channeling Christopher Reeve in that Superman. Anyway, this is an issue that was, again, long coming. It came out, the first one came out, like, last September, I think. So, we're looking at a year for 6 issues, which bugs me. I really, really get annoyed when things take that long. Because Because you know what, I understand that artists have delays and that artists get busy and that emergencies happen, but I think the last issue we saw was in April. So 4 months for one issue. And before that, the last one was June. So we're looking at this year, we had like 2 issues. 8 months for 2 issues? Are you kidding me? I find it very funny that these guys don't take as much time when they first start up and coming, but the minute they become superstars, they somehow start getting slowed up. Anyway, my points aside, my annoyances aside, this was really good, I think. This is the end of Geoff Johns and Gary Frank's retelling of Superman's origin. Not even so much Superman's origin, in as much as just kind of an explanation of Superman's kind of first encounter in Metropolis. The first issue is him as a kid and ends with him putting on the Superboy costume, and the second issue is him with the Legion. And then the third issue kind of begins the him in Metropolis proper. I mean, it skips around. It doesn't really dwell, because I mean, we know he came from Krypton. We don't really need to rehash all that. So in the issues that led up to this, we found out that Metropolis at this point kind of just looks Lex Luthor as their savior almost. I mean, they gather, they swoon, they claw, they bite. I mean, sort of thing. Very disgusting, really. And so Superman shows up, and Lex immediately sees that being threatened. He sees his hold on this town and these people being threatened. And on top of that, the Daily Planet is very much in ruins. And so Superman's arrival kind of signals a turnaround for Metropolis. Basically, Superman, in this arc, we basically get treated to new origins for Parasite and Metallo. Metallo being the primary antagonist here that the main fight's about. We get Lois, we get Jimmy, we get a big insight into Clark. And like I said, Gary Frank really challenged Christopher Reeve in his Superman. Really, like it's obvious. And it's good. This issue is, like I said, Superman's kind of been on the run after the last issue of Sam Lane, General Lane, kind of the military. This kind of really sets up the themes that World of the New Krypton and War of the Supermen and were kind of built on. Just that whole General Lane doesn't trust Superman because he's an alien, and Lex Luthor really hates Superman. So it's really quite good. It builds up to the future a little bit. Not quite as much as something like Green Lantern's Secret Origin did. Like Green Lantern's Secret Origin almost directly built into Blackest Night because Geoff Johns wrote both those. But Geoff Johns kind of left Superman when World of the New Krypton started. So this kind of just builds into almost where he left off. And I just am really mostly upset that it took so long. But the Gary Frank artwork is quite good. Gary Frank does a really good Superman. He'll be doing Batman Earth 1 next. And so I can just hope that in the future, maybe, he gets a chance to come back to Superman. So, if you like Superman, and J. Michael Straczynski's Superman for some reason isn't doing it for you, check out this. This should be coming out in trade in a couple weeks. I don't know. If it were Marvel, it would be in trade next week. But it's really, really good. After he defeats Metallo, we kind of get in Superman does his first kind of monologue with Luthor, where he kind of just inspires the people to finally break the hold that Luthor has on them. And then we kind of see that Luthor is losing the support of the people. So it's really good. I mean, we get a lot of classic Superman standing up for what's right, for what's supposed to be there. And it's really quite good. So definitely check out Superman Secret Origin if you dig Superman. And like I said, if J. Michael Straczynski's Superman's not doing it for you, check out Geoff Johns' Superman. Geoff Johns' Superman, I guess you could say, is a lot more of the classic Superman storytelling. We've got a fight with Metallo. And it's really, really good. Like I said, it builds heavily into World of New Krypton and all that, War of the Supermen, everything of that nature. So, check it out. It's really, really good. Anyway, that wraps up the comics for this week. Hopefully I'll be back this weekend to talk about one of the new graphic novels I got. And I will also hopefully have the new set. It's taking longer than I expected, but I'm not happy with it. I want to make sure it looks good before I use it. Anyway, that wraps it up for this week. Next week, we should have a bunch of cool stuff coming as well. And I will see you guys then.